Hello, Helen Yu here at Nvidia GTC in Washington, D.C. I'm here with Hecht, who is the Senior Director of Product Marketing for Enterprise at Nvidia. Hello, Anne. Nice to see you here.
Hey, good to be here, Helen. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, I enjoyed so much about the keynote today, and I'd like to unpack a few things with you. But before we do that, could you introduce yourself and then your role at Nvidia?
Yeah, happy to. So I have been working at Nvidia for almost 8 years now. I have been in the product marketing organization on a number of different enterprise products. The last 5 years or so, I've been focused on AI and bringing AI to enterprise organizations and public sector now, and doing that through obviously product development on our side, both hardware and software, as well as working with our ecosystem partners.
NVIDIA has shifted from being a chip company to AI infrastructure company. You have everything from hardware, software, quantum, almost the entire stack, right? And so what have you seen through that transition, especially in the past 8 years, within the ecosystem?
Yeah, that's a great question. People don't realize, and Jensen mentioned this also, is the richness of our libraries. And we really work hard as an organization to obviously bring the best accelerating computing to the market, which includes networking as well as accelerators, but also building on top of that platform and enabling developers to do their best work by sharing insights we have. And we do that by our rich ecosystem of like CUDA-X libraries that Jensen talked about.
Yeah.
And we try to solve some of these really complex workload challenges. It could be supply chain with cuOpt, or Clara with with healthcare and genomics. Even quantum computing, we have a library for quantum computing. So these really difficult, challenging problems, we see how our accelerated computing can help those. We built that into a library, which then we can share with the ecosystem that's building applications and solutions on top of our stack. So it's really this glue layer that helps developers get to market faster.
I love that concept of glue layer, right? AI Factory came about, and then can you share what that means, right? To me, that means tokenization manufacture, but can you unpack that a little bit for those who don't really know what AI Factory is about? How is it different from the traditional data center?
Sure. Yeah, so we talk about AI Factory, and what I like to tell my enterprise customers, my partners, is you can build out AI infrastructure, but until you bring data, you just have AI infrastructure. So you can have even models, but until you bring your enterprise data and you're actually building a workflow, a chatbot, an agent that's getting intelligence from your data and providing results to your company in the form of tokens, that's like the output, then that really does become your factory, your AI factory. And we look at tokens and we look at the value of those tokens or the cost of those tokens based on energy. Jensen talked about that too, because so many of our data centers today are energy constrained, right? So whatever we can do to produce tokens and results for AI faster, more accurately, and a lower portfolio of energy, the more efficient and cost effective.
Jensen shared that chart. I'm still can visualize that. There's energy being at the bottom, GPUs right above, and then infrastructure. There's models and apps there, right? And how does it look like for enterprise?
Yeah, that's a great question. So that middle layer for infrastructure between the GPUs and the models and applications for an enterprise really becomes very sophisticated. You almost have to blow that out and look at the different layers in there. And there's a whole set of software infrastructure that's needed. There's orchestration and management and transparency of the workload that needs to be built in order for that enterprise to really adhere to their corporate governance, for example. They need security as well. And we heard about the CrowdStrike announcement, which is great.
Exciting.
And how we're bringing, working with CrowdStrike to bring these really intelligent cybersecurity agents, not just helping developers in the cloud, but also so they can run on-prem, wherever the data is, enterprise data. And then, of course, within an enterprise, there's always a team of developers. But a lot of times those developers are not sophisticated CUDA-X developers, right? So they can't just take our co-op library for supply chain and start using it. They can use it though in an AI ops platform, a low-code, no-code development environment. So that's why we work with like the weights and biases and the domino data and the data robots. And now even Palantir basically is building a whole solution stack on top of this platform, accelerating data processing, workload delivery, using all of these libraries to deliver results to industry.
You know, there are many exciting announcements made during keynote today, but a couple of them I wanted to really have you unpack a little bit. There's AI Factory for government. Obviously, you announced AI Factory for enterprise earlier this year, but now adding this AI Factory for government, how does that help us to modernize government to make it more secure?
So what we did in order to make this AI factory for government possible is really three things. One is we added additional, with our latest release of our Nvidia AI Enterprise software suite, stick hardened, containers rather, FIPS enabled, so it can be, our software can be deployed in these like FedRAMP high and similar high security environments, on-prem or in the cloud. The other thing we did is we looked across our ecosystem, and obviously we work with a very broad ecosystem, but we curated the partners into that sort of design guide, if you will, that are integrated with our software and also have existing, software offerings for public sector, and also comply with those security requirements that are needed for these environments.
Can you share a use case with a customer in public sector?
Yeah, so I mean, well, first of all, even in public sector, it's very important if you're even citizen data.
Yeah.
If you're taking citizen data and you're moving it, personal information, it needs to be encrypted.
Oh yeah.
That encryption is something that we support now with our software. Obviously, it needs to be implemented by the provider, by the solution developer, right? But we've provided all of the support within our software to now make that possible. So it helps you encrypt data that's in transit. Retail uses these same standards for point of sale when they're securing customer information at purchase time. They're also using the same, standards for in a financial markets to like secure credit card information.
Yeah.
So and even other industries and other sovereign countries will leverage some of these standards themselves. So it's a really important sort of thing to support for across industry and public sector, all of these more high assurance security standards.
One of the standout moments during Jensen's keynote today was the Apollo moment, right?
Yeah.
He refers to as the industrial renaissance, which I was super excited about. And how do you enable the ecosystem to accelerate this transition?
Yeah, and I think Apollo is a really great analogy for this, because Apollo and all of the subsequent, the first one to the moon and then the subsequent ones, like Apollo 13, I think everybody's seen that movie, right?
Yeah.
And they did have, a challenge. It took like teams of people to bring back those astronauts, right? So just like that, it's going to take a team of organizations, of innovators working hard to come together to find all the right AI solutions, optimizations, and security solutions. The announcement we made with CrowdStrike, for example, right? We're working with them, and I mentioned that one earlier. None of this we can do on our own. So just like our GPUs go to market, and we work with the OEMs and the CSPs to bring those to market so that enterprises, organizations, people can access accelerated computing. The same thing's true with our software.
Oh yeah.
The software is not an off-the-shelf application. They're like CUDA-X libraries. They're not usable unless they're in an application. So we work with the ecosystem, like our AI ops platforms, to create low-code, no-code development environments that expose those libraries so developers can build apps, pipelines using those libraries. So the ecosystem is what makes everything possible, and we're so dependent on the ecosystem. I think it's such an important thing to clarify for some. Is I've been here for 8 years. we've always been about the ecosystem. I don't think that's ever going to change. We are trying to build more, deeper technology, innovate faster, bring better value to our stack all the time by introducing new libraries and adding more value to our stack. But we don't ever want to be, or I've never seen us try to be the application provider.
Well, you don't really need to, right? You're building the infrastructure to enable everybody in the ecosystem to succeed on their own term. I appreciate the fact that you invested heavily in education. There's supercomputers out there, and then for science and bringing the science back to America. So really, really appreciate it. I also noted that you have certification program there for the partners in the ecosystem. So really, really appreciate that.
That's right. And we do, we have great trainings that are even free on our website. And then, of course, for our ecosystem, our partners, we have curated trainings that we've developed for them. And then even here, we're doing a whole program of hackathons that are open. And we've been doing hackathons at some of the local universities. So getting people, engaged, learning the technology, using it. Well, it's a great way for us to get feedback, of course. But it's also a great way to get the ecosystem excited.
Speaking of feedback, right? The extreme co-design was very impressive, right? That kind of approach. Could you just elaborate that a little bit?
Yeah, I think some of the announcements that he highlighted are examples of that co-design. So, let's take ServiceNow, for example. ServiceNow, we've been working with them for a few years now. Their Now Assist is a whole agentic platform that's built on Nvidia. And we have really co-designed with them in that case. And when we come out with a new model, new infrastructure, they're one of our first customers that we actually take it to and they give us feedback. And then they're designing on top of that, which gives us feedback. One of the things that they're talking about here is a model that they developed, which is based on our Nemotron models. Jensen spent a lot of time talking about how important the model ecosystem is and open source and open models for furthering all this innovation. So ServiceNow has developed their own customized model, leveraging our Nemotron model. And because it's highly customized, it's much smaller, it's more efficient, it's more accurate. And for us, that's a huge win. That's exactly what we want the ecosystem to do. Their end customer has no idea that they use Nemotron.
Exactly.
And that's fine.
Not only you work with the giant, right, the Google Cloud, Oracle, the world, the ServiceNow, you also support a startup. I saw the chart today. It's like, wow, this is awesome.
That's right. And we have a great inception program. So we, and we have programs not just to get them access to our software, but also to the infrastructure. Our build.nvidia.com page, it's basically a developer environment. It provides access to all of our software, our microservices, models running on these microservices so they can run anywhere. And then also it's a great way to get access to accelerated computing. There is credits developers can get for no charge. There's a cap, so it's not unlimited.
Not forever.
Not a blank check. But you can get access to actual accelerated computing, do some testing of an application. And then there's an off-ramp through our Brev environment to sign up for additional compute. And we make it super easy for developers to get access to just the amount of compute they need. Because not everybody's going to go out and buy a server or has a default for a bigger purchase of infrastructure, especially if they're just starting out. So we're trying to get, regardless of where somebody is in their journey with accelerated computing and AI, we have different options for them to experiment with NVIDIA's stack, learn how it works, and hopefully, develop as a professional.
Well, thank you for doing that. Kudos to you. Jensen shared 3 things that really deems to be, we asked him about what does success look like to him. So he highlighted 3 things. Number 1, 80% of the tech stack on American standard. Right? Number 2 is winning, or every developer, regardless the location they're in. And number 3 is strengthen the national security. And so I've asked that question to you. What does that look like to you from product marketing perspective in the next year or 2?
I think it's inspiring to always listen to him talk about what we're trying to achieve. And I think he made the point that 40% of the developers are in China and they're developing consumer applications. So we ideally they have access to our stack. I'll let him figure that out, you know. But in terms of making it accessible, right, and building up and like providing it as a tool to the government, I'll go back to what I said earlier. Providing these like STIG hardened, FIPS enabled containers was why we did that. We want our government agencies to be able to use our full stack. And they could before, but it took them months of time doing their own development and testing of our software. But now we're doing that work and we're taking on that burden, if you will, to make it easier for them to build on top of the stack. And we're also enabling other industries as well that require these same standards. And we're working with, as a result of that, you know, there's a lot of the partners here like Lockheed Martin and Northrop Grumman, Palantir that are in the Fed space that now we have, you know, we're developing solutions at the Astris AI platform, but that Lockheed Martin has started, and the Palantir platform, for example. It's all building on our stack.
Yeah. You know, I am most excited about bringing the manufacturing back to the US, right? That's Renaissance. What are you most excited about?
You know, I'm just, because I live in that enterprise space, I think it's great to see the manufacturing coming back. And one of the reasons why we've been able to do that in this shorter period of time is because we are using things like Omniverse to build the digital twin of the factory. And that's not, it makes it faster, but it's also a lot more efficient. It's much more, you know, responsible in terms of energy usage as well, right? And then you have a digital twin of your factory where you can optimize and make changes.
You know, last year I was at Nottingham, you know, like EVIS, right? Nottinghamsburg Innovation Lab. What happened is that I was able to fix the bolt on the machine remotely, virtually, leveraging digital twins, right? We did that on a high voltage machine. So it was fascinating to see that happen. You just follow the instruction, you're able to do that remotely. It was unbelievable, right?
And that type of immersive virtual environment, you can train doctors, you can train nurses, technicians. There's so many applications for it.
Or you onboard the new hire, right?
That's right. And it actually brings this in, makes it a lot more easy to actually access and deliver to new professionals who are developing in their career. So I think for me, what's exciting is to see this inflection point that now seems to be taking off, where enterprises are really seeing value. And Jensen talked about it in his keynote, the flywheel. You know, the more you use AI, then the smarter it gets, the more AI you will create, and the more users will use AI, the more value you get. So there's this flywheel that begins, and we were talking about it earlier. The most important thing is just start your flywheel. You know, enterprises are starting it. I had one customer I was talking to earlier this year, and it took them like a couple of years. They were working on their chatbot, and they realized through the process that their ground data had inaccuracies in it. The model was performing the way it should, but the data that it was referencing was not correct. So they kept cleaning their data and correcting their data. They finally put the AI, you know, to use, but told their employees, like, it's like 80% accurate. So we're going to get it more accurate before you actually make business decisions based on it. But the more we use it, the smarter it'll get. And now they've just taken off, right? But you can't start really getting results until you've started your flywheel. And it might be slow, might be a little bumpy. That's why humans are really important to have in the loop, you know, when you start it out. But it will get better, it'll get smoother the more you use it.
Those are profound, right, suggestions, especially for those people who are at the beginning, ending innings of the journey here. And it's very encouraging to know, like, not everybody here is at the same stage of the journey. Some are newer, some are way ahead of everybody. But the truth is, Nvidia is an enabler. You enable almost everybody, regardless where they are at with the journey, regardless of location, regardless of the industry. So thank you for doing what you do. And we really need I would say kudos for you to create a brand new industry, right? AI on its own is an industry in Nvidia is one that off the chart, in my opinion, that making this happen.
Thank you. I thank you. And we can do it without our ecosystem.
Yeah,
Right?
exactly.
It's our partners.
Yeah. Thank you, Anne. And
Thank you, Helen.
Appreciate your time.
Yeah, great to be here.
Yeah.